Okay. So, this is Brittany. Hello.
Marissa.
And we're covering or doing a video blog on media influence in the political world, Chapter 7. And what we were kind of deciding to talk about is sort of a current event, and that's sort of the media depiction of President Obama in the recent developments in Syria, and sort of how that has evolved since his initial statement about the red line to now that we've come to a relatively small or large resolution involving the chemical weapons over there. So initially, him making this statement about the red line was a huge deal, and the media criticized that as sort of setting a bar and that a standard that he would have to maintain, and how that could potentially lead to political fodder of him having to enforce that.
Of course, at the time, everyone was freaking out because we're going into another war, right? Obviously. Because we're talking about something that might possibly be construed as bad.
Right. Yeah, and so then after the chemical weapons were deployed, and he suffered a lot of criticism because people were assuming that were in the media he was being depicted as some kind of warmonger, and I think you have a good picture in the magazine about him surrounded by flames and sort of trying to, in Time magazine or
Bloomberg Businessweek.
Okay. He's surrounded in flames, and he's obviously vying for war, and even in other countries he was being criticized as sort of vying for war, and one that was largely unsupported in the States, and so that was a pretty big deal. And then ever since sort of the Russian stepping in diplomatically and trying to broker
being a mediator.
Right, yeah, trying to broker a deal for the surrender of any chemical weapons from Syria. Now he's being portrayed in the media as not some big harsh warmonger, but some weak president that we would never have respect for again. And I thought that was pretty interesting as far as relevance to political image in the media.
And of course, we have this picture of him being thoughtful and forlorn in a hallway.
Yeah, under all his criticism and the weight of everyone's changed or opinion of him and lack of respect or something like that. And
the article goes on to say that he's sort of wishy-washy and he's silent during most debates over this.
Yeah, and so I just thought that was a relatively and relevant, or we thought that was a relatively relevant and current development in a very short amount of time, it seems, of opinion in the media that's describing our president, from maybe coming down too harsh to being a warmonger to suddenly being this weak, flippy, floppy guy that looks bad in front of the Russians and the rest of the world. And yeah,
we thought it was also a really good example of agenda setting.
Yes.
Where they will put their opinion on air or in type in this example, where they want you to read it, and even though this isn't necessarily true of the president, they want you to really think that way or think about it and reach your own conclusion that is suspiciously close to theirs.
Right. It's the kind of an exact like sort of media being injected into our opinions about someone, and even whether or not it's actually, reality. I think most of us would agree that Americans not going on the ground and going to war is probably the optimal thing that could have happened, no matter how it came about, and especially if we're doing the ethical thing and trying to help civilian people in another part of the country.
Let's see how long that was. That was 4 minutes and 32 seconds. I think that's a pretty good amount.
Yeah, right on.
How do I end this?